Hi everybody, welcome to Christian Homestead. My name is Jared. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. In this video, we're going to go over 3 church news articles, and I found 2 new Second Coming quotes that I've added to my spreadsheet. They just keep coming this year. There is so much Second Coming talk. It is crazy. So the first one that we're going to look at is this article called Elder Stevenson Addresses Latter-day Saint U.S. Air Force Academy Graduates at Uplifting Baccalaureate Service. Got to scroll down a little bit. The article says, Elder Stevenson began by talking about the growth of the church and how there are 3,600 stakes and more than 17 million members worldwide. There are now 205 dedicated temples, with the Abidjan Ivory Coast Temple dedicated that same day. He showed a slide of the Eka family who joined the church in Nigeria in 1979 and couldn't wait to enjoy the blessings of the temple. He then showed a slide with a map of Africa that includes 29 temples under construction, dedicated, or announced. Quote, "That's what we describe as the Lord hastening his work in his time," he said. So let's take a look at a temple map. This is on Wikipedia. And to me, it's stunning because I went on my mission in 2004 to Spain, and it was kind of a big deal to me how many temples there were in Africa, because we worked a lot with West Africans in particular. So much so that at times I felt like I was in an African mission. And a lot of them were from Ghana and Nigeria. And at the time, there were only 3 temples in Africa. There was the first one in Johannesburg, South Africa. And then after that, I don't know which one came first, but there was one in Aba, Nigeria, and another one in Accra, Ghana. And now, in 2025, there's about the same number of temples in Africa as there are in Europe. Something incredible is happening in Africa right now. So yeah, I would definitely say that the Lord is hastening his work in his time. It reminds me of a couple quotes. This is on my spreadsheet called Quotes 10 Lost Tribes. I got a couple quotes here that talk about the miracle that's going on right now and how it's comparable to the parting of the Red Sea. I have this on my 10 Lost Tribes spreadsheet because a lot of people say that we haven't seen a miracle greater than the parting of the Red Sea, because we'll see that when the 10 Lost Tribes come from the hollow earth or from outer space or something like that. I don't subscribe to that. I believe that the 10 Lost Tribes are scattered throughout the world. I don't have time to go into all that, but you can access my spreadsheets anytime. The link is in the description box of each video. But Elder Bednar said, let's see, this is February 25th, 2023. You can find it on the Church of Jesus Christ in the Philippines YouTube channel, Philippines area-wide broadcast, Becoming a Temple-Ready People, at the 31-minute and 21-second mark. Elder Bednar. So think of Gordon B. Hinckley in the early 1960s coming here and leaving 6 North American missionaries, and that was it. And look at here and all throughout the Philippines today. This is a miracle greater than the parting of the Red Sea. And it will continue because of the devotion, the consecration, the faithfulness of the members. He said the same thing about Mexico that same year. I have a similar quote from Elder Jeffrey, at the time, Elder Jeffrey R. Holland. I'm not going to read those 2, but I want to point them out because we can't underestimate what's going on right now in the church. It is exploding like crazy. So I put this quote right here, Elder Stevenson saying that the Lord is hastening his work in his time, on my Second Coming spreadsheet, because we've seen a lot of that. It's hastening toward the Second Coming and the millennium. The church and the world are preparing for the Second Coming. So let's just do a quick count of how many quotes I have that have to do with hastening. So we got this newest one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And there may be more. Here we go. 14, there any more? 15. Okay. There may be more. I'm still in the process of, assigning a topic in these columns right here to each quote. There may be more, but you can see there's been a lot of hastening talk. Not just with missionary work, but with a lot of other things. So anyway, so this is one of my 2 newest Second Coming quotes on this spreadsheet. I'm telling you right now, when you go back in time, there is not this much Second Coming chatter. There just isn't. There isn't. I'm collecting everything that I can possibly find. I've been doing this full time for coming up on 4 years now. And you guys are constantly sending me things. I'm constantly looking for stuff. I can tell you with a certain degree of certainty, there's never been this much Second Coming talk and hastening talk and growth and all the rest of it. I'm keeping track of it. Okay, so let's move on from that. The next article, this is actually the Church News podcast, but the transcript of the podcast. Episode 243, the church's Hymnbook committee chair, Steve Schank, on new hymns and joyful singing. You can watch this on YouTube, but if you go to the very end of this transcript, if I can find it, the interviewer, Mary Richards, says, "Our last question on the Church News podcast is always, what do you know now?" And so Steve, after being a part of this incredible multi-year project to select new hymns for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, what do you know now about the power of this music to increase faith and worship? Steve Schank. I think of 3 things, actually. Now, I'm not going to go over the first 2 for brevity, but we're going to focus in on the third thing that he lists. The third thing, which I don't think I can overemphasize, is that we're led by prophets, seers, and revelators. One of the greatest privileges that I've always had is to meet with the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, with the First Presidency, and in a particular way with some of the apostles as our advisors, and to see seers who see around corners. To see prophets, seers, and revelators who discern what are the needs of the church today and are making decisions about music that are different than happened in the 1980s when the last hymn book was produced. Who are guiding and preparing a people to prepare the world for the Savior's second coming. My testimony of prophets has grown, and I'm so grateful that we're led by living prophets today. So, we've already noted this connection between the new hymn book and the second coming and a growing global church. This phrase right here, seers who see around corners, we have read something very similar before on the channel, and I just want to share that really quick. This is from Sherry Dew, I don't know if she still is, Executive Vice President and Chief Content Officer, Deseret Management Corporation. I don't think she is. She's now last I checked, she was the CEO. I don't know. This is from a BYU Hawaii devotional, November 2nd, 2022. Prophets can see around corners is the name of the talk. So I know this is kind of repetitious, but I think it's good to repeat things because it helps me remember. Hopefully it helps you remember. This channel is not just entertainment. I'm trying to actually learn something and help you learn things too. And there's no substitute for repetition. All right, she says, 2 years ago, I saw President Russell M. Nelson see something I could not see. On September 17th, 2020, I was among those invited to a communications meeting with President Nelson. The pandemic was raging, and we suggested that President Nelson record a message of hope for church members. He told us to, quote unquote, sprinkle a little fertilizer on that idea and bring it back to him the following week. But then, the very next day, President Nelson asked our group to meet with him again. He told us that our idea wasn't bad, it just wasn't right. During the night, he had received the impression that he should indeed record a message, but a message for the world, not just members. He said his message should be about gratitude and include a prayer for the world. He told us the exact day and time the video should be released, and even how long it should be. I'd never heard President Nelson be so specific about communication details, but as he spoke, I knew that I was witnessing a prophet act on revelation. We assembled a team of videographers and others to fulfill President Nelson's instructions. If this group had relied on their own expertise, they would never have recommended a video as long as the one President Nelson specified, nor would they have suggested releasing it on a Friday. But a prophet had spoken, and we went to work. The result was the hashtag #GiveThanks video released on November 20th, 2020, and the results? Unprecedented. The video's reach dwarfed anything the church had ever released, especially to those not of our faith. Never in the history of the earth had so many people heard a prophet's voice. Prophets see around corners. So, you guys, I hope you have a testimony of the prophet and the apostles, that they really are who they say they are, and that Christ is working through them. They are his apostles, and they are the leadership that he has chosen to work through. And with this new hymn book, I don't think that it's just by chance. I think that it's part of the plan. We are now well past the 1980s, and the church is moving into a new phase. In fact, the term final phase has shown up a number of times in recent general conferences. I have another spreadsheet that shows that, but I'm not going to go there right now. Hopefully you can tell, ever since President Nelson became president of the church, that the church is in a new phase. And he keeps reminding us, and so does everybody else in church leadership. So, prophets see around corners, and you might think, oh, it's just a hymn book, yawn. No. Hymns have a profound impact on the church and on those that hear the music, visitors, the Tabernacle Choir, all the songs that they sing. It's not just all out of the hymn book, but it has a profound impact on people. The Spirit can work through music in ways that it can't through other mediums. Okay, so let's continue. There was this article from Church News, Inside the Church's New Hymn Book Project 1 year later. And Elder Renlund is being interviewed in this one. This is an article by Mary Richards, and he has some interesting things to say. Now, just after the 1 year mark of the release of the first batch of new hymns for Home and Church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has provided an update about the size, scope, and timing of this sacred, ongoing project. Elder Dale G. Renlund of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles said, "It is an ambitious and complex endeavor." Quote, "Because of the importance of sacred music in the church, the First Presidency and the Quorum of the 12 have been intimately involved in every aspect of the new hymn book, including the selection of hymns to be included in the print and digital versions," he said. Okay, so it's not like other organizations where it's just like, okay, find a committee, have them put something together, and we'll just give our final stamp of approval. No, they've been involved in every aspect of this project, because hymns, it's going to affect so many people in so many different ways. Okay, continuing. This is Elder Renlund. Each hymn has been approved by the First Presidency and the 12, and these approvals have not been taken lightly, Elder Renlund said. The church's hymn book committee chair, Steve Schank, said, quote, "We got feedback on every level. Nothing happens in a corner or in a vacuum. The leaders of the church are very involved in this process. We make recommendations, they make decisions," end quote. And by the way, I don't think it's just that they're so involved when it just comes to the hymn book or temples. I think there's so much more that they're involved in than what we probably realize. This is the Lord's church. He's working through his apostles. Okay. Meanwhile, the hymn numbers in the print version will be the same in every language, in every meeting house, and home around the world, which will unify the members in singing the same body of music throughout the church. Okay, so at this point, I want to start focusing on the purpose of what they're doing and how this fits into the bigger picture. Okay, I have a spreadsheet. Let's see. It's this one. No, it's this one right here. I have a spreadsheet where I've attempted to capture all these changes happening in the church. I don't know if you remember, I don't know if you've been a member for this long, but when President Nelson became president of the church, big changes started coming down the pipeline really fast, hot and heavy. It was crazy. Things that had been the same for a long time, for example, the church participating in the Boy Scouts, home teaching and visiting teaching, elders quorum, and the high priest quorum meeting separately. Like all these things changed so quickly. And I wanted to try and get everything that I could and put it on this spreadsheet and do a timeline. And I feel like the reason why this is happening is the church is becoming more streamlined, for one. The church is also becoming more global. So you have to synchronize things across a global church. So we're all on the same page. Also, I think that certain things have been made easier so that when you have a big influx of people that join the church, possibly before, but definitely after the second coming, it'll be easier rather than what we were doing before. So, for example, instead of 3-hour church, 2-hour church. It's like just making it easier for new converts, I think. And there's probably other reasons too. But I did something new on this spreadsheet. I color-coded the ones that seem to have to do with the global church. So the first one that I have on here, May 9th, 2018, the church will end relationship with Boy Scouts of America, announces new activity program with children and youth. So the Boy Scouts, that was just in America. I don't know if you guys had it in Canada or if it was in other places, but it definitely wasn't across the entire church. I think it was mostly an American thing. And so you have this new program that was rolled out that applies to the entire church, regardless of country. So global synchronization. The next one, June 18th, 2018, the new Hymnbook that we're talking about, where, across the world, it'll all be the same. Again, when I went on my mission, that was the first time I encountered a Hymnbook from another country. And I was surprised at some of the differences in the hymns. There were hymns that were there or hymns that weren't there. It was really interesting, but now that's not going to be the case anymore. It's all going to be synchronized. Okay, and then the next one, August 14th, 2020, the First Presidency announces 3 global church magazines will replace the current 4. Ensign title is retired and New Era renamed. Yeah. And I don't know the reason for this. Maybe you can fill me in the comments, but for a long time you had the 2 adult magazines, the Ensign and the Leona, which were very similar, but there were differences. I know that there were sometimes different articles, but there were also a lot of articles that were the same. So you had the Ensign. I think it was just for the United States. I don't know if it included Canada too, but then you had the Leona for the rest of the world. So now it's all synchronized. It's all the same magazine. It's the Leona now. Okay, and then November 30th, 2023, the First Presidency announces new unified standards for the creation and adjustment of ward and stake boundaries. Specifically, I think this had more to do with differences between the U.S. and Canada, like the standards for how many Melchizedek priesthood holders you had to have, or X number of people before you could have a award or a stake. So now it's the same between countries. There's no difference. And yeah, that's all that I have that I've identified. So a lot of global synchronization. Okay, continuing. Quote, families and congregations around the world should begin using these hymns right away. Many wards and branches have done this in exemplary ways. Please continue to do so, Elder Renlund said. I've been in 2 wards since this is rolled out. My ward back in Kansas and now my ward here in the Independence Stake. And they've both done a very good job at including the new hymns. Let me know about your ward in the comments below. Are you in a ward where they haven't really done it yet, or generally have all these wards been doing it? All right, continuing. The goal of the Hymnbook project was not simply to replace existing hymn books and children's songbooks, Elder Redland said. Quote, instead, the purpose is to increase faith and worship of Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ in homes and at church, and to unify members throughout the world. The musical styles were to be expanded to help achieve these objectives. So this article just keeps saying it over and over again. It's to help unify the global church. Said Elder Renlund, quote, I hope you take advantage of the opportunity that has been provided to enjoy these new hymns. Music is a language of the Spirit and can deepen your love and appreciation for God and His divine Son and the restoration of the Lord's church in these latter days. Okay, I think that's all from this article. The last thing I want to point out is I do think that the church is expecting even more growth, like very large growth. I'm not sure if they're expecting it before the second coming. I kind of think that they are, but definitely at the time of the second coming. I have quotes where it talks about the fact that there's going to be a large influx of people that are going to convert and join the church. Not everybody, but there's going to be a lot. And things could change pretty dramatically. I did this exercise right here where I took Dodge City, Kansas, and I looked at the population, and I was like, okay, if like half of them remain after the second coming, like, let's say that half of them were counted as wicked and they're destroyed, and you have half that remained, and then 70% wants to join the church. That means basically that for the Dodge City ward, I think there's just that one ward in Dodge City, you'd have approximately one ward member. Wait, how did this go? Yeah, just one ward member in general per 39 converts. And if you were to limit it to adults rather than including children, it'd be one adult to 97 new converts. And if you limit it to Melchizedek priesthood holders, then it would be one Melchizedek priesthood holder per 486 converts. That's if 70% join. If it's 50%, the numbers are a little bit less. But it's just like a rough estimate, just an idea of what things might actually be like after the second coming. We really could be swamped. And I think the church is trying to streamline things and prepare for that. And some of this may occur before the second coming. So I also want to point out there's like so many reasons to believe it, but President Nelson has just outright said it. This is from a social media post, November 1st, 2018. He says, we're just at the exponential phase of growth, and it will continue. The Lord has said, I will hasten my work in its time. We already heard that earlier in the video. The exponential phase of growth. And I feel like you can see that not just in all these changes that are taking place in the church, but also at the number of temples that are being announced. I have this other spreadsheet called Temples Member Ratio. And I'm not going to get too detailed with it, but basically I looked at the ratio of how many members during any given year, how many members have we had per temple? And I took a couple averages. So I took like the entire history of the church. The average has been 127,000 members per temple. In 2023, it was it was 92,000 per temple. So if things were to stay the same, like just pretend that all these temples that are announced right now were suddenly constructed and in operation and dedicated. Well, if you wanted to keep things the same that they are right now, if you wanted to keep the norm, if you wanted to keep the same ratio, then the number of members would have to increase pretty dramatically to keep the status quo. So if we were going with the 2023 ratio, the church would have to grow to 34 million members. So it's like double the size that we are right now. And if it was just the overall church average throughout church history, which would be 127,000 per temple, then the church would have to grow to almost 47 million. And I think that's actually realistic. Elder Stevenson, was it Elder Stevenson? Yeah, I think it was Elder Stevenson. He gave that talk where he talked about the decade never to be forgotten and how we have all these big events coming up between now and 2033, or maybe it was 2034. I think it was 2034. Yeah, because there's the Winter Olympics, there's the bicentennial of the church, the founding of the church. We also have all these temple dedications that are going to be taking place. And of course, that's going to bring in a large number of people into the church because not the dedications, the open houses, because that's one of the rare times that a person that's not a member of our faith can go through a temple, feel the Spirit, and then maybe want to know more and reach out to the missionaries. There were also there were other things that he talked about, like other big events that are coming up, but I really think that that's what they expect, whether it's because of those events or whether it's because of the second coming itself. Yeah, I think that that's fully what they expect. The church is going to get really big, really fast. And that's why we're seeing all these things. So, okay. Well, that's going to be it for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.